Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I would like to say thank you to the moderator who gave me a time to deliver my material. So today I would like to share about some tips of how to write a good short story. But before I explain the tips, I think we need to know first what is short story. So short story is a short prose that only consists not more than 10,000 words, and it makes short story different from novel that there is no limitation. And to make a good short story, the story consists several typical elements that must present in the story, which are an inciting incident, rising action, climax, and falling action. And writing a short story, it's all about telling an impactful, clear, and simple story in the shortest amount of time. And efficiency is the name of the game for the short story writing. So now we move to the first tip of how to make a good short story, which is find a simple idea. A great short story often focuses on one incident from the protagonist's life, with the goal being a move arc with an important purpose. So if you're having trouble with how to start your short story, it's because your idea is too complicated. You might be thinking about how many details should go into this new world that doesn't exist in reality and how all of this idea will come together. But at the same point, you'll hit a wall where you can't think anymore. So to make it easier, you just need a simple idea. And the second tip is start with a hook. So to grab your reader attention from the start of your short story, use a hook. A great way to create this is by starting with dialogue. How about a character asking another a question out of the blue and then getting an answer that bring them into the scene. Start there so reader can feel like they're engaged from the beginning. An example is like this dialogue. There's something on your face. See shit. So this dialogue is like mysterious, open-ended, and already smack dab in the middle of the scene for your reader to drop in. And the next step of writing your short story should be setting up the context without giving away too much information about how or why there was something on the character face in the first place. That way, reader will continue reading to find out more. And the next tip is give your protagonist an urgent goal. For a short story, the goal needs to be somewhat urgent in order to achieve it in short span of time that you have to tell. For example, the goals is like, I want to meet my favorite movie star versus I need an escape from this morning interview. The latter has more urgency and is much more engaging for readers because it seems like something important. The next tips is to write a short story about what you know. What better way than to write a short story on something you really know? Take an area that you are interested in or have a wealth of knowledge in and think about how you can write a short story about it. Then drill down even more and write a short story on a small aspect of the subject. You'll be writing a short story about something you actually like to write. And the next tips is suggest the backstory or setting. Don't tell it. In a short story, you have no space to construct an elaborate backstory or a detailed setting. In order to keep things concise but also create depth in your story, include just very minor details that allude to those details and let your reader to do work. For example, instead of reciting the backstory of how one Frenchman ended up in the United States, merely mention the accent he hoped he would leave behind upon emigrating, or with conveying a wintertime setting, add some minor detail of your character covering themselves with a scarf to show the cold wind in the narrative. The last tips of write a good story is build the power ending. Making the perfect ending for a short story is a whole skill. Unlike writing a novel where you have the ability to drag the final chapter themselves, a short story ends with clarity. There are many ways to end your short story. It can go with a happily ever after, dark, or even an abrupt ending that leaves one to wonder what happened next. Some endings are naturally constructed to evoke where their meaning depends on the reader perceives it. So I think that's all about the tips how to make a good short story, how to write a good short story. So Maybe that's all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.